I'm back.
They're a perfect combo. They got a fire pit.
Just getting things set. Right. Sorry, I'm just preparing, guys. No one's here anyway yet. I know some people will watch this on replay. Like, what is he doing? I'm just getting myself together. Um, and I will be drinking some water. Hopefully, I'll have some engagement. Uh, if not, oh well. We'll see. All right, I'm back. Sorry, just giving out the giving out some information that I was live to my moderators. So I'm listening to some more classical music from Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, Debussy, Liszt, Mendelssohn, mostly Baroque composers, Baroque era music composers. So when people come into the to the live stream, I hope they do see the title. I'm basically telling. I rarely do. I rarely do streams just towards black men, but because it's such a thing in the black community, I wanted to address it. I was gonna do it yesterday, and I just didn't get time to do it. But I'm gonna get around, so I'm doing it today. And I'm basically just telling black men to stop being stepdaddies. Stop doing it. Don't do it. It's a trap. Oh, what's up? So I know many people aren't in here yet, so I'm just gonna just kind of talk a little bit until people come in here. And for people who watch this on replay, they'll be able to see it. But yeah, black men need to stop being stepdaddies. If that's the title, if you haven't seen it, um, I think specifically it says black men need to stop becoming stepdaddies. But the same thing. We, I can't speak on every community, the men in every community, but it seems by and large that we are taught to accept that, to accept having blended families with children, with women who already have children. Like, I don't see that pushed on any other group of men other than black men. I don't see this pushed on Asian men, although I see it a little bit more prevalently in the Philippines, but I don't see them telling the men that they should accept being stepfathers. What I do see happening is that a lot of them will willingly become stepfathers because a lot of uh, younger women end up having children. I get that, but it's still not the same. They're not being told they should accept that. It's just something that some of them just end up doing. That's different. So no one's saying, well, leaving that aside, but yeah, but yeah, in other communities, I don't, I just don't see that pushed on their men. I don't see in any other group, not Asian, not white, not Latino, not Pacific Islander, not Middle Eastern, um, not Desi. I don't see any other group where they're taught, oh, well, you guys need to be stepdaddies and step up and for the community. Man, fuck that. Like, no. Um, in the immortal words of Michael Jordan, although he never actually said this, fuck them kids, man. If you don't know what I mean, it's a funny meme uh, that's made its rounds across the interwebs of Michael Jordan said, "Fuck them kids." He never literally said that, but there was I think some sort of like shootout contest in around 2016 where if he missed if he lost a certain amount of shots or whatever, he would have to like give money to these kids to their charity or orphanage or something. And he just kept making bucket after bucket anyway. So people was like, yo, so Jordan's basically like, oh fuck them kids, huh? So that's how that meme was born back in 2016. He didn't actually say it, but he did it with his actions. Like instead of just his ego was too much for him to like intentionally lose shots to help those help the kids. I think he actually did anyway, which is probably what people miss. I'm pretty sure he helped them anyway, but he wasn't doing it through that contest by missing all those shots. He's Jordan. So, in any case, yeah. Look, this was spurred on by like several, like at least two different conversations I had 2 days ago. No, yesterday. There was like two different conversations I had with two different friends yesterday, plus some stuff I was watching online. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I'm so tired of them trying to tell black men they need to be stepdads. And one of my friends who watches my channel loyally was even telling me at his job, like, it was guys, like, basically, grilling him, saying, why don't you have children yet? You need to have kids. And telling him that he needs to be dating women with children. And he was like, at your age, you need to be dating women of a certain age anyway, and they're all going to have kids. And first of all, he dates older women. Like he dates women in their 30s and 40s. However, they don't have kids because that's just false. The thing is, he dates outside of his community, both geographically and ethnically. He doesn't really date black women, and he doesn't really date people in the greater Baltimore area. He dates outside of the Baltimore area, so it's not normalized having a bunch of children. If when you are single, that is a phenomenon in low income, ratchet black communities. So it's not the fact that he wasn't dating up. He was definitely dating the upper ages in the middle years, 30s to middle years. But the reason why a lot of the women didn't have children that he dated was because one, they weren't black, and two, they weren't in Baltimore. Kel Surprise. I was told, and I told him, like, I was told the very same thing by a sibling telling me, well, you're in your 30s and your age. You don't need to be dating anyone under the age of 26. I don't know where the magical fucking age of 26 came from, but I was told that, and anyone of that age is going to have kids anyway, so you shouldn't knock it. Like, unlike my friend, I didn't argue. I was just like, eh, okay. I didn't say anything. It wasn't worth it. But I knew one, I wasn't dating black bitches. Sorry, black women. And the age I dated was my concern, as long as they were legal. So who cares? Um, and third, I just wasn't dating anyone with kids. I've said, I had told friends since college we should never do that, and most of us listened. Most of us. Well, no, I think the only one who didn't listen was someone who already had. Eh, no, 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 no. No, I take that back. I think the only one, all of us, all of us pretty much went by that more or less. The guy I was thinking of, he actually already had a kid when we were in college, so that was different. That was his own biological child. So never mind. But I don't know why it's incumbent upon us to date women with children. Like no one's, like I said, it. An Asian parent would smack their son upside his head if he dated some chick with kids. Um, oh, this came up with my wife. She has a friend who's dating a baby mama. He's Filipino. This is in the Philippines, and you know the I was like, I'm guessing she must look good because there ain't no way because they've been living together for 8 years. He's taking care of her child, and she she runs him, like he gives his money to her, and she manages their finances, and she gives him an allowance so he can have money to get to work and buy food. Like I'm like, did he give her his dick too? Because Jesus Christ. And so what made it worse now is the fact that, I guess they had an argument. She left. She left him, took the kid, and he was like, "Well, if they break up, he still wants to co-parent." Like, how? You're not married to her. Like, you have no parenting rights. And even if they did get married, he still wouldn't because he would still only be the stepfather. So that was the second conversation I was having that day, yesterday. And then the third thing was just like some stuff I was watching online that kind of fell in line with these two conversations. And I think there might have been a third conversation. I can't recall exactly. This is why I should have did this yesterday when everything was still fresh in memory. But yeah, man, the whole stepdaddy thing is crazy. Like I would say a lot of black kids of the 80s and 90s were raised by stepfathers. They yes, they stepped up. That's what they try to say now. Like, oh, these they call them step parents because they're stepping up. No, no, they're simps. I'm sorry. I will give due respect to the stepfathers of the 80s and 90s because thank you, Christina. Appreciate it. Um, the step parents of the 80s and 90s were awesome. Like they acted like parents, like in every form. But I think the difference was there was an appreciation for what they did back then. It wasn't expected. It was just they did it out of love for their partner, and often they ended up loving the children they took care of. So shout out to my late stepfather, for instance. Um, but nowadays, is it the other person left? Oh, that's cool. People come in and out of the chat. But I save my live stream so they can be watched on replay. So, any case, um, yeah. So, and the stuff I'm sharing isn't for whatever person was in the live. It's for people who are going to watch this on replay. So I make these videos in mind for people watching these broadcasts in the future, not necessarily as it is in real time, unless there's a lot of people. But Where was I? Yeah, so the stepfathers in 80s and 90s did a lot of great work um, with in the black community, keeping families together. Like, there's nothing wrong with blended families. What was what the issue I saw was around like the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s now, is that it was now expected because so many of these women have opted out of you know conventional conventional marriages and relationships. Like, there was this idea that taught to younger women, like millennials and Gen Z, that they can have it all by their Generation X mothers. Take care. So um, they taught them to go to school so they don't need a man. But then once they hit a certain age and their biological clock starts ticking, then they wanted a man. But now they've already hit the wall. Like, you when you can't, if you waste your best years in the pursuit of a career, that's fine, but you shouldn't then expect to have the best results afterwards. That doesn't make sense. And a lot of these women were taught that they can have it all. They didn't they weren't taught that there's always trade-offs to every decision that you make. There's trade-offs even in evolution. As humans became bipedal, meaning that they walked on 2 feet, the trade-off was, and like there was a lot of advantages to becoming bipedal, by the way, like being able to forge um, for much longer, farther distances, um, and some other, you know, ecological advantages, but it came at the cost of lower back pain and stuff like that. So, and taking longer to learn how to walk than um, animals on 4 legs, and being very clumsy at it. So, in any case, there are always trade-offs. And so if you decide that you're going to spend the years where you are the most fertile and the most attractive to men pursuing a career, then you shouldn't be mad that once you're in your 30s and 40s that it's going to be hard, if not impractical, for you to get into a relationship with a guy wanting to pursue a conventional sort of relationship. Um, and this happens particularly in the black community. Like, you know, women do make up the bulk of higher education, but there are some subtle differences in how they pursue their education. Black women are taught to go to school so they don't need a man, um, whereas a lot of other women from other groups are taught to get their education so they can find a man. Big difference. Doing something to in spite of men, and doing something to and doing something to ingratiate yourself with men. Two different motives. So that is the difference. But that's not the worst part of it. The worst part is, even though they object to becoming married at an earlier age, like they think getting married under 30 is too young. They think getting married under 25 is too young, which is just crazy. But um, they don't want to get married, but they'll have kids at that age, and that's just insane. Like, you are bringing our kid into a whole bunch of social disadvantages by being a single parent, but you don't want. It doesn't make any sense that they will pursue, you know, being a single parent but not being married because they're in the pursuit because they want to, dig into their education and career. Cool. If you're gonna pursue a life, a, if you want to see, if you want to pursue a life of erudition or of or career ambition, that's great. But then why are you still bringing kids into the world? That should be reserved for once you're in a committed relationship to give that kid not take yourself outside of it. It gives the best results to the children being born. Like it's a reason why children born outside of marriage are called illegitimate children or out of wedlock or whatever you want to call it, because they face disadvantages that children born within the confines of marriage don't have. And we've seen this played out again in the 80s and 90s. Usually, the Gen X kids were kids raised uh, with a single mother who then got married to the stepfather and had their millennial kids who did have who were born within the confines of marriage, and usually they had better outcomes than their elder siblings who were Generation X. And hmm, it's kind of crazy that you would see so much stark differences in the outcomes just based on one, a child being born within a marriage and one without outside of one. And so is why the role of stepfathers became so crucial. And to get back to one of my friends, like he's literally at work and he has other men telling him he needs to step up and become a stepfather. Like, why? Why would you tell him that? Mind you, all the men telling him this, they are fathers to their own biological children. But they're telling this man who's single he needs to be a stepdad. Why? You know why? It's because he's single and he's living his life the way they wish they secretly could. And I even told him that. I said they're only telling you that because they want you to be tied down like they are. They're uncomfortable with the fact that you're able to live the life you want, and they can't because they're tethered down to their own little fuck trophies. And that's because one guy even brought out a bunch of pictures of his children to my friend and said, "Look at all these children. This is why you need to have some kids." But it didn't make any sense. He's showing him his biological children while telling my friend he needs to find a chick with kids. Not then that's not even that is not remotely analogous. Besides that, why should my friend being happy that this guy found uh, satisfaction in his own life with his biological children affect him affect my friend wanting to find a chick who already has kids? That doesn't make any fucking sense. And again, no one cares about your fuck trophies other than you. I'm sorry. Guys who have children, no disrespect. Women who have children, no disrespect. But no one cares about your fuck trophies but you. No one cares. Your little fuck trophies doesn't impress anybody. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. No one gives a fuck about your little fuck trophies. Oh, he's so mean. I don't care. It was just dumb because like they were really trying to get on my boy about this. Like And then he also had a woman there say it was a red flag for her if a guy doesn't have children. I was like, what? He's showing responsibility is a red flag. I was like, that bitch is stupid. She's the red flag. And I told him, I said, you know what they mean. It's not that you're a red flag. You're a flight risk. The, 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 the fact of the matter is that you have no children is that they can't, they don't have anything to, they don't have anything to use against you. So if you just want up and leave a bitch, you can. Because you, if you say, man, fuck this job, fuck this country, I'm flying to Budapest, I'm gonna stay there and work remotely, they're mad at you because you got the ability to do that. You're not tethered to anything or anyone. Well, I mean, he does have a house, but a house can be sold or rented. Children can't really get rid of that easily. At least not in the Western world. But yeah, it's like and I told him, I said, bitches telling you a red flag, they're the fucking red flags. They're mad at you because you're a potential flight risk. They know that you, you can't you can't be you're not tethered to 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 a situation with them, and that's what they don't like. But it's fine. People with children should date other people with children. And I've said that before. Like, women with children should date men with children. That's fine. But to say that the man that a single man with no kids is a red flag is dumb. A single man who has no children is responsible. And I told him, I was like, dude, I was like, this is why I never get into these sort of dumb conversations at work with people. I was like, the only time I had even remotely close to such a conversation at work once, I told him I was in the break room chilling, and this woman came in there and she asked me, she's like, contrarian. That's not my real name, but she's like, contrarian. Um, she's like, how come you don't have any children? And she was asking me, did I have any children? And I was like, no. And she, asked me how old I was, and I was telling, and so I told her, I was in my late 30s at the time. They should step up as stepfathers. What I do see is that often it is in it, what I do see in the Latino community. Someone can correct me if you're Latino, Hispanic, um, Spanish origin, what have you. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I do see is I don't see them telling Latino men to be stepdads. What I do see is that they kind of expect them to become fathers at a younger age. And I know this from firsthand when I lived in the Washington suburbs. When I lived in the Washington suburbs, specifically Silver Spring in Montgomery County, if people know the areas, it was at once the wealthiest county in the country. It's still like in the top three, I believe. Um, but at the time, it was the wealthiest county in the country. And I remember, you know, finding an old friend uh, who I knew back in high school, and I met him like after I graduated. Like it wasn't even 4 years later. I'm gonna say it was like 2 years later. It was like 2, 3 years later. So I'm like 19, 20. Because I graduated when I was 17. And he was like, I'm guessing like 15 or 16 when I met him, like a year or two younger than me. And I remember he had a girlfriend in the class we had together in our geometry class. And I think they so they ended up having children. he was like, "Yo, Contrarian, what's up, man? So I ain't seen you for years." I was like, "Yo, what's going on?" He's like, "What's going on with you?" I'm like, I'm chilling." I said, back in, in college and stuff, just, you know, I think this is before before I enlisted in the army. I think either right before or right after. So I'm either 19 or 20 at the time. And, you know, he's like, "Yo," he's like, "So what's up? You got any kids yet?" I was like, "Nah, man." He's like, "Yo, you getting old, man. You ain't got no children, man. You need to have some children." I'm looking at him like, "Motherfucker, I'm only 19." What you talking about? I'm getting old. I need to have children. So I asked, so I think I asked one of my Spanish friends in college. He's like, "Oh yeah." So yeah, so a lot of a lot of guys in the Latino community, they have children at a younger age. So that was funny. Like we're like literally 19. I'm literally like 19 to 20. He's like, "Yo, you getting old, man? Why you don't have children yet?" What the fuck? Meanwhile, I meet up with a friend from another high school. Sorry, I went to three different high schools for people that know. I went to school in Philly, went to school in Baltimore, went to school in DC. And so one of my friends from Baltimore, a year later, I'm 21 now, and I'm working at Sears. This is right before I transferred to my alma mater. And he was like, "What's up, man?" I was like, "What's going on?" He was just looking rough, like he looked like he was had a rough like. He's like, "Man, I'm just working all the time, man." He said, "It's tough." He's like, "You were smart, man, not having kids and just hitting the books." He said, "I wish I did that." And I was like, "Damn, my father was right." He told me a long time ago. He said, "The guys who are, the cool ones in high school, they're going to be the nerds when you get out." He said they're going to be sitting there working at a gas station, something like that. And that's exactly where the guy he had on like a little uniform for working at one of the gasoline stations. Like he literally like worked at a gas station. Although I think he might have been a mechanic or something like that. I don't think he was literally like pumping gas. I think he was like a mechanic or something like that. That's probably why he looked kind of dusty. But this guy, like he looked like he had the whole world on his shoulders. Um, but I remember, just 5, 6 years ago, the dude was like just he was an absolute monster in high school. Like bitches loved him. He was just he was smoking weed, fucking chicks, just living a life, not giving a single solitary freak, right? But now he said now he got kids now, he got to take care of them and all that. I'm like, man, that's crazy. So all of that is to say this, that it seems because there's such a prevalence of having children when people aren't ready, that the guys who didn't make that mistake now, they're they're expected to be the cleanup men in the community. So the guys that didn't fall into the trap of having kids early, that didn't fuck up in high school or right after high school, that went on to pursue their education, get a career, go to trade school, go to the military, do whatever. Now they're expected to come back to the community and be the cleanup men. Man, fuck that. There's no more jokes here. Fuck that. Why should we come back and clean up the community that we didn't break? Why, Umar? No. That shit. And on top of that, not only should we not come and clean up the community that we didn't break. We shouldn't be going into other people's communities and taking care of their bastards either. Because you see black men doing that too. Like if they're not if they're not being stepdaddies, excuse me, stepdaddies in the black community, they'll go over into another person's community and be stepdaddies. Like one friend I fell out with. Well, I didn't fall out with. He just unfriended me once because I guess he realized I wasn't supporting um, um, Kami Haha. Uh, and instead supported Trump. Although on my personal social media, I never said I was uh, for whom I was voting. Not on my Facebook or Instagram. I did here on YouTube, but he doesn't watch my YouTube channel, or so I believe. But I did put up several memes making fun of her. But again, I would have made fun of her even if I was still on the left, because when I was on the left, I was a Bernie supporter, so there's no way I would have voted for her. I sucked my teeth and voted for Biden back in 2020. I sucked my teeth, gritted, bit my lip, and voted for Hillary in 2016. But I was going to make that same mistake a third time. And I really and on top of it, I really disliked her. I didn't like the fact that she was being pushed to, like, I didn't like the fact that Democrats were telling black people they needed to vote for her based on her, the fact that she's supposed to be some of our kin, and that still hadn't been proven that she's kinfolk. And even if she were, she's still not Black American, so still wouldn't matter. But even if she were Black American, still wouldn't vote for her just based on that. I would have to vote for her based on, you know, her actually supporting things that I want. We learned our lesson back in 2018. I mean, excuse me, in 2008 and 2012, voting for someone who's kinfolk who but ain't really kinfolk. Like we know to whom I am referring. But in any case, this this dude was a simp. Like he and I bonded because I met him while I was staying in the Philippines. I went to a comic book convention there in Manila. It was actually the last Manila Pop Comic Con that they have that they had there, because the people who the people who are the people behind that convention have not been able to get one back together. Maybe in the future they will, but this was like the last one back. This was like 2018. That's how long ago it was, and I met him back then. Because we were literally the only two black people there. Like there was other people besides Filipinos there. There was a few white people there. I think a few maybe Korean or Chinese, but mostly everyone was Asian, right? And mostly Filipino. And so we were literally like the only two black people there that I can remember. That, um, and I was like, hey, what's up? He's like, what's going on? And I found out we're both from Maryland. And he was even from the Washington region, the Washington suburb region. So we instantly clicked. He let me know he, had his own comic book company and all this other stuff. And we instantly bonded. We, exchanged information. I even saw him again back in America at at a convention in Baltimore. Um, so we were really cool. Then I later learned he had a strong left leaning ideology. That's cool. I don't care. Like when for people who are usually more moderate in their political beliefs, we usually don't stop liking someone because they fall on one or other side of the political ideology side, but usually people who are on one of those sides normally do. Actually, I won't even say. Actually, I'm gonna qualify that. I don't even see people on the right usually unfriending people on the left. I from what I have seen, and people can correct me, I only see people on the political left unfriending people whom they find to be moderates or on the right, because for them, being a political moderate doesn't exist for people on the left. For people on the left, you're either with them or you're on the right. There's no moderate for them. There's no center. Whereas people on the right, even if they disagree with you, they usually won't unfriend you. They'll either try to convince you otherwise or they just won't talk about it. But I I don't I've rarely seen people on the right unfriend other people. I've only seen it from people on the left. So and that's what happened with this guy. Let's just call him Fred. And you know, a big reason the passport bro movement happened and a lot of black expats travel overseas was to find better relationship options. And it's like this guy Fred, you know, like me, coming from Maryland all the way to the Philippines, traveled 8,500 miles and ended up finding someone there. But he ended up in a relationship with a woman who had a child. And this from a guy who claimed that when he first moved there, he had bagged hundreds of women to, to, to hear him tell it. And like I said, he made the claim, not, you know, that he had bagged hundreds of chicks in the Philippines. If that's the case, why did you settle down with a baby mama? Like, you flew 8,500 miles to become a stepdad. You could have done that right back in PG County, in Prince George's County. You could have been a stepdad right there in Prince George's County. You flew 8,500 miles just to do the exact same damn thing. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, they did end up having their own child together. They had a daughter, but he was, you know, raising her son. That another man nutted in her and gave her, like, you raising another man's fuck trophy for free. I find it completely absurd. I wouldn't do it. Sorry. Think what you want. Taking care of another man's children is fucking stupid. I would never do it. And he even got into an argument with one of my other friends online as they were debating this. And you know, so I had to tell Fred, I was like, I was like, look, I'm not. I was like, look, let me try to, you know, quell this. I was like, bro, I said, if there's nothing wrong with you having a blended family and, you know, wanting to, you know, wanting to be in a relationship with a woman who has a child. I was like, what my other friend was trying to say is that here back in the U.S. Oh, no problem, Moonlit. Thank you for being here, though. Um, but what I was trying to tell Fred was, look, my other friend, he's not saying you're wrong for what you're doing. What he was trying to tell you is that here in America, like, black men are expected to do that, and that's where we disagree. That's like that's where he disagrees with you. It's not saying that you shouldn't do it, just that you shouldn't be told that you have to do it. If you want to do it, that's fine. No one's gonna think less of you for choosing to raise a blended family. I was like, my other friends grievance was the fact that only here in the United States, particularly in the black community, are black men told that they have to be stepdads. They have to be. And I'm like, no, that's fucking crazy. So, for folks, if you want to be a stepfather, that is fine. Like, no one, go ahead. I find it to be stupid, but there's many things I find stupid that people have every right to do. I don't drink, I don't smoke, um, because I think those are bad ideas. But I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't do it. What I would be against is someone telling you that you have to do it. And that was my point. Like, only in the black community, they tell you that you have to be a stepdad. And that's usually because of your age. So basically, if you're over the age of 30, you have to be a stepdad. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. To copy Umar, who thinks you guys repeat everything 3 times. it, it's just and then on top of that, like I said, then you actually go travel and you still become a stepdad. What was the point of traveling? I mean, for me, one of the reasons I did travel was to get away from that. But even here in America, before I started traveling, like I was successfully using the platform OKCupid before it became trash. I heard that OKCupid has become trash. Anyone who has used that platform, let me know how it's turned out. But one of my friends said it's not great anymore. But OKCupid 8 9 years ago was great. Like basically a lot of the features I think that are probably like you got to pay for now were free back then. The only thing you had to pay, the only thing on OKCupid that you had to pay for 9 years ago was guaranteed results. And they stopped doing that because they actually got sued by a guy who said he wasn't getting guaranteed results. It's like you might be that's because you might look like a fucking troll, sir. You might look like a troll, or you might say some dumb shit out your mouth every time they DM you. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say, but he said he wasn't getting guaranteed results. But if you look like Quasimodo, you probably won't get guaranteed results even if you're paying for it. I'm just saying. I don't know what the guy did, but he literally he successfully sued OKCupid because they couldn't give him guaranteed results. True story. But anyway, beyond beyond that, most of their features were built in that you might have to pay for now. And OKCupid was great. I was meeting all sorts of people without having to resort to baby mamas or fat women. I've I've already made my gripes about fat women. Now, speaking of fat women, I'm just gonna say this. I'm going on a tangent here because it's something I saw earlier, and then I talked with one of my friends who is a professional powerlifter. So both he and I are like athletes, but he's a way more accomplished athlete. Like he's actually an Olympic level athlete. I just do this for fun. If you are fat, stop using protein drinks. I'm just gonna say this. Like there's no reason for you to be to be using protein drinks if you are fat. I'm serious. What? Why? What? What? For what? The protein drink is usually a meal replacement. Unless you are literally using it to replace your meal for the day, you don't need a protein drink. You really don't. Like I'm pretty sure if they did like a one of those little medical analyses of the person's like physical makeup, they probably have way more protein in their body than they need. That's not the problem. The problem is all that extra goddamn fat. Like if you are a big person, let me put it that way. If you are obese, if you are a big person, you don't need protein drinks when you work out, assuming you are working out. And for that person in particular, if she is watching, if you're only doing BJJ, you don't need a protein drink. I'm sorry. The protein drink should be when you are doing an intensive strength training routine or an intensive cardio routine like HIT. If you're not doing HIT, if you're not doing strength training, if you're not doing something that takes up a lot of muscular endurance, you don't need a protein drink. Being that you are an American, you probably eat way more protein than you ever need anyway. And again, you don't need a protein drink just for BJJ, and you are a big person. So you don't need protein drinks anyway, unless you're literally replacing it with your meal for the day. That's it. Like, you don't need a protein drink. Don't waste your money. You're just buying expensive piss. A protein drink, if you're already fat, is not going to do anything for you. The more you know. So anyway, back to the subject. Uh, Simona says she's looking for a stepdaddy, pops balloon. Right, right. Just pop the balloon of find love, right? Man, no, I'm saying I'm gonna let. Somebody, I'm pretty sure they don't. I'm pretty sure this doesn't happen in the Native American community either. But like I said, I think literally the black community is the only black community. I mean, the only community in the country, if not the world, where men are told they must become stepfathers. And it's like, and the reason being is that you're being punished for doing the right thing. Like, because you didn't fuck around and have children at a young age, like a lot of these dummies did. Um, and you went on to, like, say, get a career, pursue a decent education. Maybe you're a military man, or 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 you picked up a trade and now you became a journeyman. I think that's what they call it, right? When you that's the word I was looking for, like several months ago when I was talking about people who take up a trade and they get their certification as a journeyman or whatever. So you become a journeyman. You you get your master's or your professional degree in the military. You're an NCO or a commission officer, or you're in the private sector as an executive manager, or you're in the or you're or you're in the government. Um, you're doing decently well for yourself. So now it's expected that you must date for the purposes of of giving back to the community, because you did the right thing. You didn't fuck up. Now you're supposed to come back and save the community and be a cleanup man. You're supposed to clean up the messes of these Pookies and Ray Rays that fuck shit up. With You're supposed to come and date Torquisha and take care of her kids, Lil Glocktavius and Lil Glocktavius and KK Keisha. Melissa says no, unless they wilding out, but it is subtle hints to arranged marriage is not forced, but elders want you to be with someone from another tribe, but it's not forced. I don't have a problem with the arranged marriage thing. Arranged marriage actually makes sense because dating is not logic. Like, dating is irrational. This is why there were so many advantages to arranged marriages. My only problem with arranged marriages is that it will usually be arranged with someone within your group. So I don't want to marry within my group. But outside of that, arranged marriages usually were given a lot of forethought. But I didn't really know they did that in the native community. I thought that was more in like the Desi community, Middle Eastern community, that sort of thing. Maybe in the Pacific Islander community as well. But in any case, I don't really have a problem with arranged marriages other than the fact that I wouldn't want it because I know it would force me to stay within my own ethnic group, and I'm not interested in that. Um, but dating for the most part is irrational. And it leads to, again, a lot of these illegitimate children. But again, this is why I think this is something that is unique, or to put it in a more erudite way, sui generis of the black community that only black men are taught that they must be stepdaddies. Like once you are past the age of 30 and you have a career, you're expected to be a cleanup man. You're supposed to come back and swoop and save the community. And this is what led to the save yourself black men movement. Like, fuck the community, fuck these women, and fuck them kids. Ain't saving them. I ain't Superman. I ain't saving shit. Call me Lex Luthor. Strip, get down, get on the floor, prepared to meet the black Lex Luthor. Yeah, I'm not saving shit. Fuck this community. But yeah, and like I said, my friend getting grilled, and the funny thing is, he was getting grilled by men. He wasn't even getting grilled by women at his job. He was getting grilled by other men who all had children of their own biological children, telling him that he needs to date women with kids. First of all, they assumed that he was dating younger women because the women he had didn't have kids. And he was like, no, I actually date older women. It's just that I date women that don't have kids because I don't date in Baltimore. He's like, all that shit y'all talking about is just Baltimore shit. And I was like, true. I was like, it's not. And I was like, bro, the sad thing is, it's not even Baltimore. It's just low income black people shit. That's what it is. It's ratchet. It's black rednecks. Like as Thomas Sowell has put it, black rednecks. Everything we everything we deem like low low class, ratchet, ghetto, hood. This was all stuff originally ascribed to uh, southern white lower class people who were termed rednecks. And what happened was the black people in the South assimilated into that culture. So when people try to claim that all this stuff is part of black culture, it it originally wasn't. It was originally what was termed cracker culture that was brought over from Europe, from some of the less less from some of the regions of Great Britain where people were of lower social status, like people of the people from the Scottish Highlands and people from certain parts of Ireland, people from the lower classes of England and Wales. They brought that to America, specifically to the South. And some of the descriptions of these people back then, the insults they had for those white rednecks, you would if you took out redneck, you would think they were talking about black people in the hood. Like you literally, it was literally like the people in the north and in other places had such disdain for them that some of these southerners, distanced themselves from those folks. The same way in the black community, the black elite has distanced themselves from the degeneracy within the lower income communities of the black community and black culture. So it was the same, but for some reason now people think it's our culture. And like I said, if you don't fall into that trap, you do the right thing, now you're going to be punished for it. Like, oh, you refuse to become a pookie. Okay, well, great. How about you should come back and help the others who did? Why? Why? Fuck them. They didn't have any love for me. I was being white wanting to study. Why you doing martial arts? That's goofy. You like reading books? Like what? You got comic books. What kind of black guy has comic books? That's so corny. That's white. I never told him that I loved classical music as we're listening to right now. That was something I didn't share with anyone when I was in high school. No one knew I loved. No one knew that I loved classical music. I kept that well hidden. I was teased enough. But yeah, so you didn't fuck around and end up with a drug habit. You didn't have kids. You didn't drop out. You went on to college. You got a degree or two. You might have went on to grad school. Now you got a nice job, government, private sector, military, maybe self-employed, got your own business, and you're over the age of 30. You're single. Why don't you have any children yet? That's a red flag. Red flag for what? That I'm responsible? Being responsible is a red flag? Okay, bitch, get out of my face. Melissa agreed. That's a generation curse that Gen X broke. We decided to carve our own path. Men look for stepmothers too, and I feel quote unquote anything is a trap. No, I think Gen X was still the. I think we still. I think it was the millennials who broke with that generational curse of thinking being step parents is normal. Like Gen X was still pretty, as cynical as Gen X was, we still aligned ourselves a lot with what the boomers did. It wasn't really until the millennials that they started disdaining the whole idea of being stepfathers. Like they would like the ones like, why? Like that has no advantage to me. Why should I raise some other guys bastards? And on top of that, like more than likely, the guy will still have a connection with the woman. He might still be able to clap her cheeks because she still has a thing for him because she bore his children. Like that is a connection. That is a connection you cannot sever outside of like death. Like the fact that he had children with that woman means that they will always have that bond. He might be able to come back and clap the cheeks unless he's locked up, and then don't let him be like Snoop on Baby Boy. Talked about he gonna get you clapped up for fucking with his baby mama. Like it's not worth the drama. It's not worth the drama. And then on top of the kid, then the kid is a headache. Like let's say everything that let's say of the best of situations, you form a bond with that kid, and then but you break up with the woman. Now you lose both her and the kid that you now have feelings for. Like my wife's friend in the Philippines, like he lived with this woman for 8 years and is bonded to her child. So now she doesn't want to get back with him, and he was like, well, he wants to co-parent, and my wife and the other friend is telling him, you don't have any parental rights with that kid. He's not your kid. One, you guys just lived together for 8 years. You're not even married, so the kid wouldn't even legally be your stepchild. And then even if so, you still wouldn't really have rights as a step parent. Like you're not the biological parent, so you really don't have any sort of you're outside of being a legal caregiver. You're like there's no obligations to keep you in the fold. So you've just wasted your time taking care of someone else's children. Um, so men, men look for stepmothers too. I don't have a problem with men looking for stepmothers if uh, if I don't have a problem men looking for stepmothers or women looking for stepfathers if they both have children. People with children should date each other, like the Brady Bunch. That's why they work together. Here's a man with what way is it? How does the song go? Meet a woman with three children, something something, whatever. I don't care. But yeah, the Brady's worked because they were a blended family. He had three sons, she had three daughters. It worked. It made sense. Although Jane, let me stop. I was gonna say, although Marsha was a, I think Marsha and Greg were probably about to get it on, but whatever. If you're not Generation X, you don't even get it, but whatever. um, yeah, blended families work if they both have children, so I don't have an issue with that. He says not a red flag having no children. The ones to do mostly are the ones trying to get you to have kids because they envy the non-children freedom. Saying oh kids are a blessing, yes, but I'll quote. Uh, he says exactly in the USA, depending how long you raise someone's kid, she will time it correctly and ditch him, and he has to pay child support for 18 years. I don't think stepfathers pay child support. That's the biological father. It's much. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's how it works on family law either. Like in family law, they come after the biological father, not so much the stepfather, unless and only unless in the weird situation where the where the wife had a child while she was married to the man who then became the stepfather, and he ended up raising that child anyway, and then now he's uh, he's financially liable for the child. So then why am I paying for two boys that ain't mine, never married? Your situation is unique. Like I said, the thing is, and I can't speak for every state, but generally speaking, if you are married, uh, like if I'm sorry, if the children are biologically yours, or there was some paternity fraud going on that shows that you are the children's father, even though you actually aren't, that's a completely different situation. Also, there is the given situation in in a few states like Maryland, where if a woman has a child outside of your marriage, you are still legally responsible for that child because you are married to her. Again, these are unique situations. This is not the norm, fortunately. That doesn't make your situation is not usual. Like that's not it. What I'm saying is typically stepfathers are not paying for the child of another because you you can't. It's, like I said, it's messed up as family law is. Women aren't allowed to double dip. They can't be getting child support at this from both at the same time, the biological father and the stepfather, unless again there's a situation in which the paternity test is saying that the stepfather is the biological father even when he isn't, through either paternity fraud or some other issues. Like that is not a normal situation we're talking about. And in Baltimore there's allegedly a lot of paternity fraud. I have a cousin going through that, or went through that rather. And at the time, I thought I was being cynical. I'm like, man, that's just your child. You need to claim it. But then he kept saying, man, he told me for 18 years he doesn't believe the child was his. He had to pay because he was legally responsible, so it was taken out of his check. But he never put he never got to know that child because he never believed it was his. Um, and he told me the reasons why he thought it was a matter of paternity fraud. At the time, I didn't take him seriously, but then when I found out a little more, a little bit more digging that there is an issue with paternity fraud in the Baltimore area, I'm like, oh, okay, so he might be exactly right. Especially when even members of his family, like his mother, is saying that child does not look like he's yours. So it it definitely could be the case there was paternity fraud, and from what I understood, he could never the 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 child's mother would never agree to do another paternity test, so he can never confirm or disconfirm whether the child was actually his. He wanted to do it at a better clinic, at a better uh, testing facility. The DNA test proved I'm not, but because I raised them, I'm forced to pay. But that ends this year in April, so I'm over it. Well, again, that was a different situation. I think if originally they assumed that you were the biological parent and you ended up not being, then that's a that's a really messed up situation. But that's not the norm where it was. That's not this. What I'm saying, that's not the given situation in most cases where someone already knows you're not this, like, you can't. That's not what I'm saying, is that's not the norm. Like, I'm talking about people who came into a relationship with the woman already having children, so they know it's not your children. Like, that you're not going to be responsible for someone else's children. Like, you come into a relationship and someone has an 8-year old and a 6-year old. Hey, Agatha, what's up? That's what I'm saying. You see, it varies state to state, but I understand what you're saying. Like, I'm not saying it's not messed up. Like, family law, and that was another situation I wanted to get into. Like, family law in America and the UK is so fucked up that it gives men a reason not to want to have children nor get married. That's the other thing. Family law is so fucked up that it gives disincentive to marrying or having children. This is another reason why I flew east to have to find a wife. I didn't want a marriage to an American where I could be taken advantage of. Like, for me, I view marriage in America or the UK, and I'm guessing Australia as well, or Canada. I see that as engaging in a contract, going into a legal contract where the government actually gives incentives to the other party in the contract to break it. Like, they're incentivized to break it. Like, it is irrational for men to go into a legal contract where the other person is incentivized to break the contract. That's how I see marriage here in America, and how family law works in America and UK. Like, as marriage is a legal contract, it seems that our family law system gives them incentives to want to break it. Like, they have no default marriage. I mean, no default divorce. I mean, sorry, not no fault divorce, right? On top of that, the woman typically gets custody, even though usually the men are the ones who make the most money in a relationship. It used to be a hundred a hundred or plus so years ago that usually the men got custody because usually they were the ones who earned the most money. Kind of makes sense, right? The 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 the, the breadwinner gets gets the custody. That kind of makes more sense. Um, but on top of that, even where the guy might get joint custody, they're often these women, the ex-wives are often taught by by divorce lawyers to claim that there was like abuse, that there was like abuse in the relationship. That way, they're granted full custody. And on top of that, no matter how little of a time they were married, she can be guaranteed to get half of his earnings, even if she had contributed nothing to his lifestyle and allowing him to earn that very income. Like I said, when if you're Elon Musk and you're one of the richest men in the world, it's not gonna hurt to give up half. Or Jeff Bezos. These people are like the richest people in the world gave up. Like he, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife is like one became one of the richest women in the world just through divorce from him, which is insane. And she gave most of it away to like charities and other um, not-for-profit type of endeavors. Um, Meanwhile, he had to earn that money, right? I mean, I don't feel too sorry for Lex Luthor though, but what I'm saying is, when you are already wealthy or financially independent, it's gonna sting, but you're gonna be all right if you get divorced and they take half. But when you are only making 70,000, 60,000 a year, and they take half, you're gonna, you're gonna end up in some little dank ass apartment or moving back home after the divorce settlement. And then they can claim alimony, like alimony for what? For life? Like at least Florida ended for life alimony because you shouldn't be getting for life alimony. So they get child support alimony, typically the house since they have custody of the children. And again, they can usually be granted full custody of the children if their lawyer tells them, "Hey, tell him he was abusing you. Tell the court he was abusing you." So family law is fucked. So it 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 gives a rational guy here complete disincentive for ever marrying or having children, especially if they're going to get screwed like Moonlit is describing here, where there's two children he's financially responsible for, and they're not even his children. That's crazy. But again, and then like I said, so it there's no reason guys should become stepdads unless you want to be one, and you unless you want to be one, or you already have children of your own. It makes sense if you already have children of your own to get with a woman who also has children. But it's just bad reasons. Like I said, in the best of situations, like you become bonded with the kids, and then the woman leaves, like what happened with my wife's friend um, in the Philippines. Now he has a strong bond with the kid, and he's hurt because he can't see the kid anymore, saying he still wants to co-parent even if they don't get back together. And it, they're trying to tell him you don't have any co-parenting uh, obligations. Um, but like I said, in the best, that's the best situation. More than likely, it's less than an ideal situation though, where the kid doesn't even like you, talking about you're not my daddy, but then they want you to put make sure they fucking eating every day and got a cell phone. Talking about you ain't my daddy. All right then, um, all right, little nigga. Then you ain't. I'm not. Don't expect me to get you any food either. Well, I'm not your daddy. Go ask your daddy for dinner tonight. Punk ass bitch. Like, mm-mm. I wouldn't be having it. And then what makes it even? And then the worst of the worst situation is the woman you're dating has a daughter who's not grown, still living, still a minor. If for any situation she can just say he 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 touched me or whatever, now you are up a creek, sir. You are up a creek. So if a guy does become a stepdad, like I said, if you still choose to be a stepdad, that's cool. That's on you. However, I would tell any man, I don't care, black, white, Asian, Latino, Native, Indian, whatever, don't date a woman with a female child. Don't do it. It only takes one time for her to get mad at you and lie and say that you did something to her. You're fucked. Don't do it. Don't do it. And no, I'm not speaking from experience because again, I told you I would never ever date any woman with children. I have a zero kid tolerance. I don't want to be around the bastards. I don't even talk to kids, um, home or family. Like earlier today, I'm outside working out, and my neighbor's retarded ass kid keeps yelling, "Hey, hey, what are you doing? Who are you fighting? Who's fighting you?" Mind you, I'm shadow boxing, right? And this little retarded, and I'm sorry, I think the kid is like, I'm not trying to be funny. Like, I think the kid literally is retarded because during the summer when I was staying at my grandmother's house, my mother told me that the little kid smeared her smeared her shit on the fence that separates our our back porches. I was like, ew, what the hell? And then when I looked up at the child today, she did look like she had a bit of a touch of the Down syndrome in her face. I don't know, I can't tell, but I didn't respond to because first of all, we and those neighbors don't get along. So that's number one why I didn't respond. Two, when I'm in my zone, I'm not responding to people. I'm trying to work out. I don't want disturbances. So I'm in that I'm in the flow when I'm doing my shadow boxing. Like when I'm running or shadow boxing, I get into the zone, this flow where that's all I'm just concentrating on my technique. Okay. And three, I was pretty sure that the kid was like mentally not all there because of the stupid thing she was asking me. Like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, and she kept calling me like 20, 30 times. Like, it was just annoying. So I just ignored her because I didn't want to have a conversation with a little dumbass kid. And four, again, I don't want to talk to someone else's kid. I'm not doing that. As a black man, I have to protect myself. So I'm not talking to someone else's fucking kid. I just pretend they don't fucking exist. It's like I treat them like wild animals. I keep my distance. Like at least squirrels are cute. But anyway, stop. But yeah. So for those reasons, I just ignored her. And she was like, "Hey, what are you doing? Who are you fighting? Who's that trying to fight you? Why are you doing that? Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hey, talk to me. I'm here. Can you hear? Ugh, like, ugh. I ugh. I, I don't I don't like children. I really don't. And if there's someone else, if they're not family members, I definitely don't like them. Like, get the fuck away from me. Like, Moonlit says, by the way, we are not bashing men or women. We're saying the laws and hardships of being a step parent or or taught that's what you should do at a certain age, kind of. No, I'm bashing people, brother. I'm bashing. I'm bashing people. I'm bashing people. If anyone who's telling black men they have to be stepdads, I'm bashing them, and I'm bashing specifically the black community because it only happens in the black community that black men are punished for doing the right thing because they didn't fall into the trap of being a Pookie and Ray Ray and they had children at a young age. Now they're taught they had to become the cleanup men of the community. They had to come back and save the community. So no, I am bashing people. I'm bashing them, and I'm bashing the people who told my friend a day ago he's working in this office telling him he must become a stepfather because of his age. We are of the same age. We went to high school together. I've known him since the ninth grade. He like myself don't have children. I'm married. He's single, but you know people are telling him the same thing people were telling me 10 years ago, like, oh, you're of a certain age now, so you need to only date women of such and such age, and at that age they're going to have children, and therefore you should be more accepting of women with children because it can be a good thing. Fuck that shit. Man, nah. Melissa says, like, share and subscribe. It's actually a important real life topic that's universal. He said, hell, hydrate. uh, Agnes says, I told my fiance if we ever get married, no divorce ever. Yeah, that's better said than done. And not to be mean, Agatha, but the majority of divorces in America are actually initiated by the women, not by men. I'm just saying. So if you don't believe in divorce, that's great. But the majority of people who initiate divorce in America are women, actually, looking at the stats. Because they're the ones who always think they should be doing better. She said, I don't believe in divorce. I won't say I don't believe in divorce because it's it's better to be out of a it's better to be out of a horrible relationship than stay in one just for the sake of saying you're not going to get divorced. Especially if you don't have kids. If you don't have kids and you're in a really bad relationship, it's better just to get the divorce. Now, in the Philippines, there is no divorce. The Philippines is the only place outside of the Vatican where there is no divorce allowed. Now, you can get annulments. An annulment can almost be a de facto divorce. There's two type of annulments in the Philippines. There is an annulment where obviously the person wasn't legally allowed to be in a marriage in the first place. Like either they, you know, usually because of like they were in a previous, they're still legally married to someone else, obviously, right? So that's one of those instant annulments you can get in the Philippines. Is well, not instant because it's actually very hard to get an annulment in the Philippines, but you can get an annulment, say, if you're not legally supposed to be married in the first place, either say your age or you're already in a previous marriage or something like that. Okay, then there are annulments you 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 want because you want to remarry. So there are those type of annulments where you can where you can you want to sever the marriage for the purposes of getting going into another marriage. And again, both types of annulments can take a long time and quite a bit of money to do in the Philippines. And that's purposefully so that people can't just easily use an annulment as a de facto divorce in the Philippines, which I mean, obviously they are, but for the that's why they make it so exceedingly difficult to do so. So if you so for some of these guys who come to the Philippines and they start dating a woman who's legally separated, um, they they must realize it could take like 7 years for that annulment to go through. If so, you better be willing to wait. um, it's not worth it. But yeah, so the Philippines is one of the few places where there's no divorce outside of the Vatican, which comes as no surprise as the Philippines is strongly a Catholic country. Melissa is good on you, Agatha, and get a prenup so he can't take from you. I agree with you on the divorce thing. Well, the prenup works both ways, Moonlit. Besides that, prenups don't act. Prenups don't aren't always actually binding. This is something another thing people don't know about marriage and why family law is so fucked up. There are a lot of loopholes around prenuptial arrangements. Like a prenuptial arrangement is not necessarily binding in every case. You also need postnuptial arrangement, a postnuptial agreement as well, because there are so many loopholes in prenuptials. Agus says, I will never marry, I would never get married to any man who has kids. Uh, Melissa is interesting. I never heard that. Is that a religious thing influenced by the Brits or French? Maybe I never heard of that in an Asian country. You never heard of what? What part? I love this. Man, I love this piano music here. Again, if people are hearing this in the background, this is calm classical music by Bach, Beethoven, Chopin, Debussy. I'll never can remember how you say his name right. I think it's Debussy. Also Liszt, Mendelssohn, Mozart, Satie, and Schumann. Okay, so and it's like a generative AI of this guy playing the piano. Divorce in the Philippines. Yeah, there's no divorce in the Philippines. Like that's pretty well known. There's the Philippines is one of the few places in the world where you can't get a divorce um, outside of the Vatican. So, but yeah, I don't. Hmm. You see, that's wild. The more you know. Yeah, you gotta remember, the Philippines is a Catholic country, and it's the only Catholic nation in East Asia. Shit, if not just East Asia, I think it's the only Catholic country in Asia. You know, the majority of countries in Asia are Muslim theocracies, and a lot of these Muslim countries actually do allow divorce. There's actually in the Philippines. So to qualify that, there is a type of divorce, but you have to be Muslim to do it, or like say you want to have a religious conversion, like you are converting. In that case, you can file for divorce if it's a matter of doing a religious conversion from, say, like Catholic to Muslim, there is a there is a realm of divorce in that very specific example of religious conversion, where you are marrying someone of a different religious faith, like I said, going from Catholic to Muslim, and then so you want to remarry someone of another faith. So you can get divorced from the person of the previous faith to marry the person in the new faith in which you are now in a relationship. I know that's a little messy, but for the most part, for most people in the Philippines, there's no divorce. But like I said, except for the few people who are attempting to remarry and go through religious conversion from one faith to another. Melissa says, I've never married because of such reasons, but because I've lived with Shorty so long, we say we are. She has no kids. I have a daughter, but she's an adult. My daughter's two half brothers I raised. Yeah, I just, because of my own situation, I knew a long time ago I would never have any kid outside of a marriage. I don't want to do it. I think it's too many black people who've broken the community by having illegitimate children and not taking care of them. It's like you automatically put your kid at a social disadvantage um, when they're born uh, when they're born outside of the confines of marriage. Like these are just sociological stats. Like they're typically born into a lower socioeconomic their socioeconomic status level, where they'll have lower IQ, lower education, more psychological problems, um, and fewer resources. So I'm not doing it. I refuse. And I know people always point out, well, what about so and so? That person is wealthy and they did, yeah, but that's cool. But they are the exceptions that prove the rule. Like, yes, if you're born to Elon Musk or to Neo or to Future, um, you'll probably be doing okay because those are wealthy individuals. But by and large, the majority of people born illegitimately are not born into uh, a wealthy family situation. So I knew a long time ago I would never put my kid in a situation where they would be at a disadvantage like I had growing up. So, so music's making me sleepy. Melissa says, until I found out with the test, they weren't mine. That killed me. See, exactly. So you thought they were yours. That's what I'm saying. That's why you were legally obligated, because it was originally assumed that they were yours, which is why you were held legally responsible. So the upscale battle was to legally fight it out and, you know, be absolved of that legal responsibility. With the right lawyer, you could have probably got it done, though. To be honest, like if you get the right lawyer, they can get you out of that situation. Trust me. Um, lawyers are lawyers can be amazing. They're sort of like the witch doctors of the they're the witch doctors of the modern world. Mula says, and it cost me a lot, but it's the past now. Still, I would not envy that situation. Um, I guess it's the same way not having kids out of wedlock. Yeah. Oh, she says I feel the same way, and I'm not having kids out of wedlock. Right. I don't even think they say wedlock anymore. That's what we said growing up, out of wedlock, back in the day. I don't even think they say wedlock anymore. Mullen says the music is soothing. He said my pets are looking at my phone. They like it too. Mullen says Elon got like 12 kids. I think he's crazy. I mean, when you are the literally the wealthiest man in the world, you can have 12 children and they're gonna be just fine. Like he could literally just give them all a trust fund with $1 billion each to their name, and he'll still be he'll still be he'll still be like one of the wealthiest men in the world. Even though he could give 12 each of his 12 children each a trust fund of $1 billion, and they'll still be like cool. I mean, he'll still be he'll still be uh, if not the wealthiest man in the world, one of the top three. Because now Mark Zuckerberg is second, which that's just wild that he's now the second wealthiest man in the world. Like he crept up above Bezos, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, that other guy who's not famous, but he was like the second richest man in the world for a time, even though he wasn't like someone well known, which is the best way to be, by the way. The best way to be wealthy is to be wealthy and completely unknown, or if you are unknown, for people to know, to be completely oblivious to how wealthy you are. For instance, Vladimir Putin, I think, is secretly one of the wealthiest people in the world, and people don't know because no one has been able to actually like um, identify his actual net worth, and that he's probably in the billions. So I think only people in the Intel community know would probably have an inkling of what he's probably actually worth. But anyway, Agnes is exactly one that pets are relaxing too. Just do says up, man. Oh, and if Ricardo's still here, what's up, Ricardo? Sorry, I didn't. I was talking, so I didn't get to say anything to you. Just do says poor people used to have many children, but the world was not so industrialized back then. No, poor people still have a lot of children. Um, like this is why look, this is why in the Western world the birth rates are going down, while the birth rates remain very high in lower in the poorer regions of the world, the so-called third world, um, which is a misnomer. Because anyway, in many of the poorer parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America, birth rates are sky high, whereas in all the industrialized, in all the in all the advanced nations, the birth rates are low, or even below. In some places, they're below the percentage to keep that civilization going. So this is happening in South Korea and Japan and Singapore and China. Um, their birth rates are not just low; they're below a point where those civilizations can continue to reproduce to keep their civilization afloat. Now, luckily, China's going to be okay, at least for right now. They have 1.2 billion people in their country. The problem is like most of these people, the their population is aging, and a lot of the younger people aren't getting married and aren't having children, and there's more men in their country than women because of the one child policy they had for many decades, led to people um, choosing only to have a male child. And so if they did have a female child, they may have sent that child out into the countryside to be raised by another family member. Or the more awful thing happened was there was a lot of female infanticide to to stay in line with the one child policy. So it ended up be turning the country into a nation where there's more men than women. That's not a good situation. And in a situation where the younger people don't want to have kids or get married. But again, they're not as bad off as South Korea and Japan. South Korea is in the worst predicament of all of them, and Japan falls right in behind them. Singapore is not doing so well either. Taiwan, not so sure. I haven't heard Taiwan being off as bad. And Taiwan is a lovely place, by the way. It's like mixing China and Japan together. Like people who are ethnically Chinese or Han of the Han ethnic majority of China, but then but then blending it with uh, like a love for Japanese culture and putting in an island that's like in the Southeast Asia. It's just a perfect combination of things right there. Anyway, and then in the West, um, in the UK, Canada, U.S., Australia, New Zealand, the birth rates are low. America's low birth rate is hidden by the fact that we have such a large influx of immigrants. The influx of immigrants keeps our birth rate high, but if you were to tease apart those stats, where you're looking at people, non-immigrant Americans, the birth rate would actually be pretty low. But because of the influx of immigrants into America, it keeps our birth rate high, luckily. Mullen says Elon's setting up a franchise, the modern Genghis Khan. He did say on Twitter he wants to become the first trillionaire. And he probably will. Well, he better set up some other means of income because people hate Tesla now. But um, he might, because of the magic of of compound interest, he still may become the first trillionaire. He might still live to become the first trillionaire. That might happen. The fact that we would have a trillionaire in the world is just, I find that morally outrageous. But that's a conversation for another day. Mula says to Just a Dude, for good reason, death and disease were so common. He said also they needed many hands to work the farms. True. So yes, because there was um, a lot of children that a lot of people who didn't make it out of childhood, it made sense to have multiple children, so that at least some of your children would survive. However, when you look at the history of that time when a lot of people died in childhood through disease or poor health and nutrition and all that sort of stuff, it didn't it wasn't easier on the parents that they had multiple children when those kids died. Like they were still utterly like, just like today, they would have been they were utterly mortified when those children didn't make it, even though they had multiple children. So they still ensured their genetic legacy, but it was still devastating even back then to people when that their when their children or their infants didn't make it. But that made it all the more the reason to have multiple children, um, to ensure you you still had a legacy. Not to mention that you also had help on you still had help on the farm and help in the household. So yes, they were both pragmatic reasons for it, and it was also the case. I mean, forms of there were less forms of birth control back then, so that was going to be another reason why a lot of people had a lot of children. I mean, there was just less forms of contraceptive back then. Mona says birth rates in Japan are very low, scarily low. Yeah, But when you look at the culture, I'm not when like Japan seems such a lovely place, and it really is, but it's different looking at it from an outsider's view to someone who actually lives there and born and raised there. Like there's very few like the culture does not incentivize getting married and having kids. Like what, to be a salary man, to be this schlep who has to grind it out every day for like 15, like someone who's like working like what 15, 18 hours a fucking day, never sees his family, like just the life of a Japanese salary man is not ideal for our, to our standards. But for them, that's like one of the best situations for a person to get into. Like you literally like you you spend your whole childhood like studying from sun up to sundown so that you can get into a good college, so that you can be find a good firm to work for and become a salary man and just spend the rest of your life grinding. Like there is no there Japanese culture does not incentivize men to 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 want to be, nor women for that matter, to get into a situation where they just want to be uh in a distant marriage for the rest of their lives. Like that's it's not there. The culture doesn't incentivize it, so I get it. So because a lot of people always try to make it out like, oh, these men just aren't trying to fuck, and or they don't have any riz, their women aren't attracted to them and all that sort of stuff. That's not true. By and large, most Japanese women prefer Japanese men. By and large. However, a lot of these women and a lot and on top of that, when you ask, a lot of women in Japan are actually marriage minded. They are, whether to a foreigner or to a Japanese man. The problem is again the life the grind of that their society puts upon them is what disincentivizes them from getting married and having children. So, which is why a lot of them wouldn't mind, getting with a foreigner where they don't have to have be with a guy who's a Japanese salary man, where he's gonna be like, it's just gonna be like this soulless relationship. But anyway, Agnes says yes, it's very beautiful. We'll be traveling there in April. My sister will be graduating with her master's degree. Cool. She's talking about Taiwan, guys. Mullen says Elon literally said on Joe Rogan, "If I fully remove corruption from American government, they will off him." Bizarro world stuff. I don't want to get into that right now. That's a whole different conversation. Um, the point I want to get back, I want to get, like I said, I want to speak specifically to the situation with black men. And again, I'm going back to the original issue. I think black men need to stop becoming stepdaddies, and they need to stop listening to people who tell them they need to become stepdaddies. That's my original point of this video. Melissa says, "Oh yeah, cheers, Agatha. Congrats to you and your sister. Enjoy the trip. I love Japan. It's just expensive in bigger areas." No, she's saying Taiwan. Melissa says, "Yeah, Japanese work very hard on very little sleep as well." No, it's just crazy. Like being a salary man, like you're typically like riding a train to work, and you got to be all slumped together like this because as a man, you don't want to be in like spread. You can't man spread when the train's over there because it's considered rude to man spread and like have your heaven forbid you have broad shoulders like me, and you got to slump in so that you're not encroaching in other people's space on the train, because the trains are seriously crowded during commuting hours, like morning hours and evening hours. I've seen it. um, I've seen and it's not just Japan. I've seen that in the Philippines too. Like it was fun doing it because I wanted to just get on the train and see how it was commuting and it was like just super crowded. Now, at least the good thing is like um, in a lot of these Asian countries like Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, and other places, there are there are cars on the subways um, for only that are only for the women, so they don't have to worry about getting groped or anything unseemly, and they can be there with their spouse. So there's the they do allow men in those spaces, but only if they're like the spouse of the women. So that's cool. So they, you know, they can be there with their wives. But we didn't even do that. Like we just jumped on the crowded train, and I kind of just held the wife while we were, on the train, and it was fun. But again, I couldn't imagine doing that for like doing it every morning for like 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like that's just crazy. Um, and that's just one aspect, just the 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 daily grind of commuting back and forth. Then you're typically working long hours, like 10 to 12 hours at work a day, often including Saturdays. And on top of that, usually the boss will expect you to hang out with him after hours. Like you typically will have to go to the bar with your boss and unwind and drink with him. Wouldn't work for me. I don't even fucking drink. But the fact that you have to then go, you're basically doing unpaid work at this point. Like now you have to actually hang out with your boss. You may not even like the bitch. He might be a punk muff, but you might not even like the person. But now you're expected to hang out and have drinks with him after work, after you just grinded for like 10 or 12 hours. By the time you get home, it's like 10, 11, 12 p.m. I mean 10, 11 p.m., maybe 12 a.m. And you got very little time to even spend with the wifey to see the kids. The kids are probably either asleep or staying up studying, depending on how old they are. Um, Typically, that's like middle school, high school. Um, interestingly enough, uh, interestingly enough, although school is a grind for Japanese children, especially in high school, elementary is actually very school is very easy on them for some reason. Like they don't expect kids to be doing homework and all that sort of stuff in elementary school. Like they expect them to teach them to be good citizens at that age, right? But the grind happens like in high school and maybe even like middle school. Um, and so it's like they have 3 years of middle school and 3 years of high school. Uh, and that's when it's really hectic because they're studying to ensure they get into a good college. And sometimes in middle school, they may be studying hard to get into a good high school. Like they might be trying to get into a specific type of high school in order to get into a specific college. Like I think the University of Tokyo is like the most. Uh, Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I think University of Tokyo is like the most prestigious university there. Like that is their Harvard. um, and so it you do all that just to get into an illustrious firm where you now become the salary man, and now you're spending like every waking moment either working, going to work, or coming from work. Like no thanks. And it's like, and then you expect these guys to want to have children. Why? What would be the incentive? Fuck that shit. Especially, and then what makes it worse is like, we live in the 21st century, so they have television, they have Netflix, they can see how we live in the West, and it's so much more relaxed compared to their lifestyles. And they're like, man, look how they get to live, and we gotta do all this shit. it does definitely disincentivizes them. So that is the hidden part of Japan that people don't know about. That's really messed up. So, but otherwise, I still love the culture and I love the people, and I have nothing wrong, and I have nothing against their government per se. So, um, sorry, I'm messing with the chat filter here. But in any case, getting back to the black community situation. And you know what? I can't even speak for the black community outside of America. I don't know if this happens in Africa or in the Caribbean. If I have anyone from the African continent, um, from the Caribbean, or black people from say Europe or the UK, please chime in. I know there's no one in the chat room currently, so if you're watching this broadcast on replay, please go to the comment section and tell me whether this is true or not as well in your communities overseas, whether black men are also um, expected to be stepdaddies in say the UK or in Nigeria or in Jamaica or in Panama. Um, I would be curious, or Dominican Republic. I'd be interested to know if this is a strictly if this is a strictly a Black American phenomenon, which I highly suspect it is, or whether this is a universal thing within the Black diaspora. Because as far as I can glean from this, I think this is a phenomenon only in the Black American communities and not in the wider diaspora. I can't see how long I've actually been on, but it's past midnight, so I'm about to go, guys. Unless someone has any questions, I just wanted to harp on this. I don't know how long I've been on because my live reconnected, so it reset the clock. But I know I've been at this for at least an hour, at least. And I think it's been more like an hour and a half, almost. Um, but just to just to reiterate my points, and then I'm going to go. There is a like I said, there is a pernicious behavior in black communities, in black American communities, whereby black men are expected to be stepdaddies when they reach a certain age of adulthood and they have no children of their own. Because they did the right thing, they are in a way punished for it because they did not have children at a young age, because they were responsible. Now they are expected to be the cleanup men in the community and come and save these women who've already had children with Pookie and Ray Ray, but who aren't there to take care of their children. So now the black gentleman is now expected to do so. He's punished for doing the right thing. He is expected to be the cleanup man, and if he does not accept becoming the cleanup man, then he's shamed for it. He's taught that he's told that he's a red flag, that he is selling out, that he's a creep because he must only want younger women. That's why they don't have children. No, it's because he's probably dating outside of his community where there's not a onslaught of bastards being raised by baby mamas. um, and if and And if and when he does decide to become the cleanup man, he does end up being a stepfather. He has very there's going to be very little reward in doing so. In the ideal situation, he might end up creating a blended family with someone and basically taking care of someone who will never be a part of his own biological legacy in the best of situations. But that may not, but often it doesn't end up becoming the best situation. It ends up where the relationship ends. Now he's formed as a strong bond with a kid that he can no longer be a part of in his life. Um, or he get he ends up in a relationship with a child that completely disrespects him, and the mother allows that to happen because he's not able to father the child in the way that he wants to because it's not his biological child, and the mother and the child both reminds him of that every time to keep him in check. Or the biological father may still be in the picture. He might still be clapping the cheeks or just calling shots in the relationship. And then the very worst situation of all, hey cat. And then the very worst of situations is where he plays stepdaddy in a relationship, and that woman has a daughter, and she has he only has but one time to piss her off. She can pull out her trump card and said he did something to me, and now that man's life is ruined. So there's no incentive for black men to be stepdaddies. Stop doing it. Stop being goaded into it. Stop letting them shame you into doing it. There's no incentive in it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So I'm about to end this actually, Kat. Like I says, I enjoyed the topic. Sorry I came on late. Good night. See you tomorrow. No problem. So yeah, guys, that's basically it. If there was more comments in the chat room, we could keep this going a little bit longer, but it's already late, so I'm gonna end it here. And I need some more water. um, so I might make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich too. But good night to everyone. Thanks to all the mods. Um, but yeah, guys, stop being stepdaddies. And this isn't just for black men. This is for all men. But this is strict. The reason I specifically address black men is because out of all the men in any other ethnic group of which I am aware, we are the only community where it's taught that we have to be stepdads. I don't see that. Like I literally don't see that in any other community that we have to be stepdads. Only in the black community they say that men have to be stepdads once they reach a certain age. So I find that repugnant. So that's where I'm going to end it, guys. If you want to show some support, um, sign up for my memberships. Okay, they start, I believe, at $2.99, or you can send me a super thanks, and the links to my Cash App is in the description. Okay. Uh, Also, if you know if you don't have any dinero, no drachma, no yen, no wands, um, no pesos, then just give me a like and a subscribe. That'll help out a lot, and share the video helps me grow the channel. And once the more I grow the channel, the more stuff you're gonna see. So, thanks, guys. Take it easy. Good night and good day to the rest of you. Thanks.